WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily.
An update this morning on the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto. The prime suspect in the homicide investigation, Stephan Sterns, expected in court for the first time this morning, answering to child sex crime allegations as the public wonders, when will charges be filed in Madeline's murder? We have a live feed from inside the courtroom this morning, coming up from the Stream Center.
Live from WFLA Studios. Top stories, breaking news, interactive coverage in the palm of your hand. This is Stream Center Live. Here's JB Biunno.
Been a long time since we've been live this early in the morning. We're used to being live later, lunchtime, noon. My goodness, welcome into the Stream Center, folks. JB here with you. 8:37 is the time. Shout out to our audience joining us on WFLA.com, WFLA's app, and then, of course, YouTube Live. Saying hello to Nesmira, Cynthia, Tammy, folks continuing to file into the comment section here. Let's bring in WFLA.com digital content producer Garrett Phillips joining us here in the Stream Center this morning as we get ready for Stephan Sterns. You see there in the center of your screen from a perp walk from, I believe, about roughly now a month or so ago. Stephan Sterns is expected in court in 9 o'clock this morning, answering to 60 charges that are connected to, of course, the Madeline Soto case, but charges not yet filed in Madeline's murder. We've got details on it all on WFLA.com, written up, of course, by Garrett. What can people find over there, Garrett?
Good morning, JB. So we have all of the latest information, basically a rundown of what we know. As we mentioned, Stephan Sterns, the prime suspect in the death and disappearance, but has yet to be charged with her homicide, murder, whatever the case might be, whatever the charges might be forthcoming, who knows. But he'll be in court today, and that is on related charges, about 60 charges of child sex crimes. The Kissimmee police said that they discovered disturbing images in video on his phone that led to these charges that included charges of sexual battery of a child, lewd and lascivious molestation, and possession of child sexual abuse material. Now, sexual battery of a child is a capital felony, so this, if goes to trial and if Sterns is found guilty, that means he could be facing life in prison or the death penalty for these types of crimes.
We hope, of course, you click over to WFLA.com, read Garrett's article. If you want to get caught up on this story, on this live stream, we're not going to be going into every piece of how we got from A to Z, so to speak. That's what the article is for. But really quickly, a rundown of Madeline Soto and the tragic outcome with this story. 13 years old, the subject of a missing persons alert in Central Florida, really in the greater Orlando area in late February. People going crazy looking for Madeline, said to be dropped off at school, but never made it to school. She was said to be dropped off not too far away from her middle school, never made it. And then, of course, a massive search was launched across Central Florida. We were covering it here live on stream. And then you got the sense that things were taking a turn towards the sinister. And March 1st is when her body was found on the other side of town. And Stephan Sterns quickly became a suspect for the Orange County Sheriff's Office, as well as Kissimmee Police. Kissimmee Police now the lead agency on this case, and they, of course, have uncovered disturbing evidence, particularly on Stephan Sterns' phone. They say that they have come across just a lot of images, a lot of disturbing material, and that Stephan Sterns said that he, according to police, accidentally wiped his phone during this whole process. Just a lot of eyebrow-raising behavior. He is no longer, as of the most recent press conference, he is no longer cooperating with authorities. He's no longer cooperating. Remember, he was part of the missing person search when Madeline originally went missing, but now, of course, he is in lockup and expected to make his first court appearance this morning. He could have made a court appearance in the first time that he was expected to be in court, but he waived his right to appearance. We've been checking the court system. He has not waived his court appearance this morning as of 8:41 a.m., so he is expected to be in court for the first time this morning in front of Judge Keith Karsten. He is being represented by a public defender on, again, 60 charges, many of which Garrett detailed. Now, the charges not included, as we mentioned earlier, Madeline Soto, of course, and her family and her friends and the community, they deserve justice. And there have been no charges filed yet, despite getting the sense that there is a considerable amount of evidence pointing to what Madeline Soto's life was like, a life that might have been rife with abuse, really disturbing abuse, even as early as perhaps 8 years old, according to, of course, some of the documentation we've received on this case. There's been no murder charges filed yet in this case, and that has raised eyebrows with the public. People asking, okay, if you have the prime suspect, if he's in custody, and you even have video evidence, as detailed by the sheriff in one of the original press conferences, you have video evidence that points to Madeline Soto's remains being put in the vehicle that is believed to have taken her over to the other side of town, where she was just dumped in a rural section of Central Florida. If you have all this evidence, where are the murder charges? So we're asking this morning in a poll, and we want to ask our stream audience to vote in this poll. We're going to get into this a little bit, Garrett, as to why do you think that Stephan Sterns hasn't been charged in Madeline Soto's death? Here are a couple of the options in our poll that we're going to kind of run through here as to maybe why. And I'm very curious for our audience joining us interactively, what they think. And so you can vote on this poll now. It's a free, no sign-up required, one-touch poll. You can do it by going to www.heyjb.live. In fact, we're going to show you what it looks like here on your device. There it is here on the left side of your screen. When you pull up heyjb.live in a web browser, again, on any device, free, it'll just populate like this, and you can just tap on your poll option that you believe to be the reason as to why we don't have charges yet in Madeline Soto's death. If you're in the U.S. or Canada, go to www.heyjb.live. If you're joining us beyond the U.S. or Canada, you can go to world.heyjb.live, just because we have certain protections in place for our system here. So let's go over these, Garrett. The reason as to why we don't have charges yet in Madeline Soto's death. Awaiting the autopsy report. Case complications that maybe, that there's just a lot of complicated stuff going on behind the scenes that the public isn't privy to. Lack of resources. We talked about this a little bit on the last stream. A police department, a local police department, is not going to have the same level of resources as a sheriff's office or a sheriff's department. County is going to have more resources than local. Now, you would imagine that there's a lot of collaboration going on between the respective sheriff's offices in Central Florida and Kissimmee Police. You would hope that they have what they need, but anytime that we cover a case on stream and local police is handling it, you get some people wondering, okay, is this going to? You might have just a couple of investigators at your disposal full time rather than an entire team working around the clock. And then another option here: insufficient evidence. Is there a chance that they just don't have enough evidence to pair Stephan Sterns directly with the act of murder? And then just you can submit a comment by going to www.heyjb.live. You can see the vote counter in. We got about 63, 64 votes now. And again, we hope to get the vote count up as much as we can. And maybe in about 10 minutes, we'll look at the results. Very curious to see what people think. Let's talk about the autopsy report, Garrett.
Right.
Autopsy report in Florida is really the examination of the remains and then toxicology. Toxicology can take months. So there's a chance that before if they're treating this textbook, right, they're going by the book, they may not be filing charges until the final autopsy comes in. And a final autopsy report, the medical examiner's report, it's not concluded, it's not finished until you have toxicology, which again, with the lab work that needs to get done, it could be a while. So that's something that people have wondered, on social media. Is this just a case of awaiting the autopsy report, or is it something else? Is there some other reason as to why we don't have a homicide charge, a murder charge being filed for little Maddie Soto?
Well, the unfortunate answer to this is, one, we don't know, and two, we're probably not going to find out, at least in terms of a cause of death. I know that we had not talked about, but we have reported that the medical examiner's office has said they will not release the cause of death. She was a minor. So we're not likely going to find out what the cause of death actually was unless it does come up in charges or a court case at a later date. I think of the options here, to me, the most obvious one seems to be the evidence, the insufficient evidence, which might be a little bit weird to say because, as we mentioned, they talked about having video evidence of Sterns, not only with Madeline in the car at a time in which authorities said that they thought that she was already dead by that point. There's video evidence of him dumping her backpack and laptop, or at least what is believed to be her backpack and laptop, in a dumpster where those items were later found. And then also apparently he was spotted in the area where her body was found. So you would think that should be enough evidence, but that itself is just evidence that maybe he tried to cover up a crime. It doesn't necessarily mean that he committed it.
Right. You don't have an idea as to what was going on in that home in the final days of Maddie's life. And also, too, what was going on in that house for years. It could have been, and if what police are slowly releasing and kind of being very delicate with the details on this story, if everything all adds up, what was going on inside that home while Stephan Sterns was a custodial parent, as it's listed in the charges, it could have been an extremely disturbing life and final few years of Madeline Soto's life. But again, tying a suspect to the specific crime of murder. One option that we don't have on this list is just awaiting forensics. Is there DNA evidence that is yet to come back? You would hope that by now that DNA would be usually it doesn't take as long as a couple of months, and that's really where we are almost now with this investigation. We're approaching, I think, the 2-month mark, but really curious to see what people say. Again, one more time, you can go to www.heyjb.live in a web browser and just tap with your finger to vote on one of these options. And then let's bring up other, because other, we can actually go to the comment section and see what people are saying. So as we get closer to 9 a.m. is when the actual court appearance begins. We'll take questions over the next 10 minutes, Garrett, and try to answer as many questions as possible. Let me also point out something that's really important as we wait for the court feed to come in, the pool camera feed. Stephan Sterns is in there this morning. He's on the docket. He's on the court schedule with, I think, how many people, Garrett? Was it a couple dozen? I think it's between 20 and 30 other suspects, inmates.
It was an expansive list.
Yeah.
It was pretty long.
So because this is not a trial hearing, this is a pretrial hearing. And in front of Judge Karsten, of course, it's how court systems work. With respective hearings, you're going to pile in as many as you can, just bang them out one at a time. It's how courts stay highly efficient in processing lots of charges with a lot of different inmates in different cases. So we don't know if Stephan Sterns is going to be near the top of the hour, later on in the hour, but we're going to get the court camera feed in about 10 minutes from now, and we'll share that with you and look for when Sterns is actually going to stand in front of Judge Karsten. So let's go to the comment section. We're going to start with VIP comments on www.heyjb.live. KK says, "Hey JB, is the death penalty on the table if he's convicted on his current 60 charges?" I believe the answer to that is yes, Garrett, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Specifically the charges for sexual battery of a child, that's a capital felony. So if he is found guilty for those charges, that's either life in prison or the death penalty.
Yeah. Mary Jane joining us on heyjb.live saying, "Been watching this case since day one." Yeah, I mean, the moment that the missing person case went out, when you hear about a child that's supposed to make it to school and does it, your heart sinks. And the more the time goes on and you realize that it's not something like a runaway and you're getting more information on some of the complications with her life, with the missing person's life, it becomes, this story got my attention really quickly too, Mary, and got attention of a lot of people beyond just the state of Florida. Let's see what other comments we've got coming in. YouTube Live, use hashtag HeyJB if you want to be featured, but if you want to submit a VIP comment, go to www.heyjb.live. That's how this works. I missed a bunch of VIP comments. Let's go back to them. Julie says they only have one chance at this. They want to make sure they get it right. Either way, he's going to jail. He deserves to. That's right. So digital evidence is, and these are, a lot of this is I mean, pertaining to child pornography. The actual charge is unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. 10 or more images times 40. So 400 images of depicting sexual performance by a child. This is, based on these allegations, this is one bad human being, okay? This is somebody who's a monster based on who if you look at this rap sheet without a name and you just look at these 60 charges, you're looking at an extremely disturbed individual, somebody who's doing just unspeakable acts against a child.
And all that's before we even get to a potential murder charge.
Right. So, I mean, we're talking about life in prison, death penalty, I believe, on the table. And then, you're talking about the charges 9 through 13 here. Sexual battery with a child between the age of 12 to 18 with familial custodial authority. You're talking about somebody that Madeline Soto was supposed to trust. And her being taken advantage of as a child, perhaps as early as being 8 years old. I mean, just absolutely, just disturbing. Going to some other comments here. In the comment section, Lisa believes they're just waiting to get all their ducks in a row. Lauren says, a lengthy comment, "I believe they have not charged him yet because they have enough to keep him locked up forever. So 0 chance of him being free. So take the time, build the case. I think there will be a lot of heads that roll with the info that they find. I think they will uncover something much bigger, and someone had to help him. So take your time. People let their guard down." So yes, okay. So there's this notion out there that's been put out on social media that Stephan Sterns did not act alone. As a responsible journalists, we have to remind our audience that as of this stage in this investigation, only one person has been charged in connection with what happened to Madeline Soto, and that, of course, is Stephan Sterns. The mother, Jennifer Soto, has not been charged. And I know that any case that we cover, there's always going to be fingers on social media pointed at the parents. And in this case, the primary parent that was in charge of caring for Madeline was Jennifer Soto, the mother. But as a reminder, they say that she is cooperating with the investigation. She has not been charged, although Kissimmee Police Chief Betty Holland said in the last press conference, Garrett, I'm sure you remember, said that all suspects are they're not ruling anything out, basically. I forget the exact quote, but they're not ruling anything out. So is there a chance that there's additional charges filed in this case? Well, in relation to Sterns, you bet. Anybody else, another individual, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the case, the only thing that we've heard about, as you mentioned, was Stephan himself, Madeline, and Madeline's mother. I don't know if we mentioned it yet. I'm sure plenty of people who are watching and are interested in the case know already, but Stephan Sterns was living with both the Sotos. He was dating Madeline's mother. So, he had ample access to Madeline because they were living together, living under the same roof. Now, whether that means he needed help to do the things that he is accused of doing, I mean, it seems like he had plenty of chances to do it if he indeed did do it, I guess is the best way to put it. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think another thing, too, we mentioned, two different people now have mentioned in the comments that they're taking their time with the case. If the sexual battery charges and the, molestation charges and the materials charges were not on the table, if he was a man who was just walking free, I wonder if they might have not tried to get those charges done quicker. If they're taking their time, as they mentioned, because they have him. Right. And even if they can't build a proper case for homicide, if he gets found guilty here, he's still facing life in prison or the death penalty. If you're Madeline Soto's family and he doesn't get charged with her murder, but he still ends up getting life in prison or even getting the death penalty because of these charges, would you be satisfied with that?
No. I mean, the people want justice for Madeline Soto, and the expectation, especially with a high-profile case. Now you're talking about, look, the district attorney's office, they understand this is a high-profile case, right? So they are going to want murder charges filed. At the very minimum, though, we're talking about disposal of human remains. It sounds as if they have pretty concrete evidence that that they had, again, the video that exists that we haven't seen yet, but video that exists of Madeline in the car being driven away from her home, and she is not said to be alive in this video evidence that authorities have. So, again, a lot, but what exactly do they have tying a suspect to the actual act of murder? That remains to be seen. We do not yet have a court feed. It's 8:58 a.m. We're here in the Stream Center on, of course, multiple platforms right now here in the Stream Center. Why do I have all these screens? Very, very simple. Very, very simple. It's so that I can see these feeds when they come in. So we're monitoring the feeds. I just shot off a note just to make sure that everything is going okay with the pool camera feed inside the courtroom, making sure that we get that without issue. The moment that camera feed comes in, we will switch to it live. In the meantime, we're going to continue to take your comments here on social media, #HeyJB in the comment section. You can also go to www.heyjb.live. Speaking of which, perhaps now is a good time to check in on those poll results. CD did say, where's the mom in all this? Jennifer Soto, again, one more time, is cooperating with the investigation. Is she being investigated? Chief Betty Holland with the Kissimmee Police Department said that everybody, that they're not ruling anybody out. So you got to take that for what it is. Jennifer Soto's name has come up quite a bit on social media, but that's only because we see it so often in cases like this where people are looking at the primary parent or parents. All right, so going to our poll question. Let's see, how many votes did we get to? Okay, we got to 153 votes. Why do you think Stephan Sterns has not been charged in Madeline Soto's death? Let's give everybody another 90 seconds, maybe people who just filed in here, to vote one more time. And again, because we're constantly engaging a new digital audience, that's why I'm always repeating myself and showing this to you again. If you're just filing in, last call for you to vote in this poll. Why do you think that Stephan Sterns has not been charged in Madeline Soto's death yet? You can, of course, go to www.heyjb.live on a browser on any device. And just, it's free, no sign up. We're not trying to get your information or track you or anything. We're just trying to do interactive journalism here and get you involved. So you just tap on one of these poll options to vote, and that's that. International audience, go to world.heyjb.live for you to be able to vote. So we'll give that another 90 seconds and see. Maybe we can get to 200 votes. We'll see if we get to that point. Again, I promise with the voting, you guys, it's just a means for us to be able to have one home base, if you will, right, Garrett? Like one place where we can actually, ask people questions in the stories that we cover. There is no gimmick. I swear. I stake my reputation on it. I promise you.
Much easier for us to tally results from one place rather than 5.
Yeah, and also too, it just gives us a lot more control over polling when you do polling with YouTube. Like if I ask a YouTube poll, it's one time and it's gone forever afterwards, and I have no control over it. But if I do polling, if we control the polling, well, this is something that we can reintroduce in the future and do again, or So hopefully people participate, and hopefully we get our vote count up. Let's see here, looking at some other comments. Let's go to YouTube real quick. Hey, JB, watching from Newcastle. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
You do a quick search on that? Where's Newcastle?
It's in UK. I wonder what time it is.
Well, there's the UK emoji. So
yeah,
I'm going to just take a guess and say that, joining us from across the pond. This is an awful case. Can't imagine what Maddie went through in that household. It's utterly nightmarish to think about what Madeline Soto's life. And, you see her in all these pictures that we have and pictures on social media, and you see her smiling. And that might have been just a very small, section of her life where she was able to be out and about and be happy, but was she just in a prison within her own home because of what she was subjected to? I mean, yeah, this is the stuff of pure evil. And you just, you hope that we have justice in our future. We did eclipse 200 votes, and because we're likely to get the feed in momentarily. Let me check on that feed, by the way. I just shot off a note. Yeah, we're checking on where the camera crew is in relation to providing us with the court feed, so that's coming in momentarily. Real quick, Newcastle, UK?
Newcastle is the UK. Yeah, it's like 2 o'clock right there.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock p.m.
In the afternoon, right.
Right.
Of course, obviously, yeah. So. How far, where in the UK?
That's a good question.
Like, are we talking like near London?
Newcastle upon Tyne is what it's called, I believe, officially.
I'm just curious where.
Let me see if I can find it on a map.
Where Beverly is joining us from. But yeah, let's tabulate the results and actually look at this here, because I would imagine that this court feed is going to pop up like out of nowhere. So let's look at this. Why do you think Stephan Sterns has not been charged in Madeline Soto's death? An overwhelming amount of people, as far as the 5 options that we have, say awaiting the autopsy report. Interestingly enough, no one really thinks it's because of a lack of resources. You would hope that there's enough collaboration between law enforcement agencies that that's not an issue. And then other got a lot, and that's why we've been looking here at the comment section and bringing in your comments interactively. So to the 223 people who voted, we really appreciate it. But yes, most people, Garrett, think it's awaiting the autopsy report, which again, in Florida, we have a lot of extensive experience here. The toxicology can take a long time, depending on how backlogged they are with the facilities that we have here in the state. Toxicology can take months, because I've heard of toxicology taking 6 months or more in certain cases, which is crazy.
I'm wondering now what the average time is. I'm gonna see if I can find that out.
Might be a good write-up at some point, I would love to see a piece inside the labs that process all these, and getting an idea as to, like seeing our taxpayer dollars at work with how forensics are processed in the state of Florida. That would be very fascinating to me. Rochelle says, joining us all the way from South Africa. Hello. Let's reset really quickly to those of you just joining us. We are awaiting the courtroom camera feed, the pool camera feed from inside the courtroom in Osceola County, Florida. That is courtroom 4F in front of Judge Keith Karsten. Stephan Sterns is on the court schedule for making his first court appearance in the charges, the 60 or so disturbing charges that have been filed in connection to Madeline Soto's death. However, or really in connection to the Madeline Soto case, he has not been charged in connection with Madeline Soto's death specifically. So we hope to get those details as to, look, could we get an update today from the state attorney's office? If the judge asks, do you anticipate any more charges being filed? Because, one thing we haven't talked about, Garrett, the trial date, I see it here on the court calendar, like trial on these 60 charges is scheduled to begin May 13th. I mean, this is a case that feels like it's still relatively fresh. And you're talking about your right to a speedy trial. You're getting a speedy trial here. These 60 charges, again, not including anything pertaining to Madeline Soto's homicide, scheduled for May 13th, 9 a.m. in front of Judge Karsten in courtroom 4F. So
that is, less than 3 weeks from now, and that'll be less than 3 months since she first went missing.
Yeah, I mean, so if additional charges get introduced to this case, what does that do to the May 13th date? These are things that we might get answers to. You would imagine that there's going to be some clarity provided with Judge Karsten looking at the prosecutor side, the defense side, and just trying to sort through exactly what we can expect in the weeks and months ahead.
According to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, by the way, toxicology reports could take about 15 weeks, or they say at least 15 weeks. So we are, 2.5 months roughly? Or no, about almost 2 months now, I think, which is roughly, 8 weeks away. So we're like halfway to the report, essentially.
And one of the biggest questions I've always had is, why, or can there be priority established? If there's a high profile case awaiting toxicology and something that is massive news, can a certain toxicology request jump the line and
be put higher in the queue?
Be higher in the queue, or is that like not how it's supposed to work? You know what I mean? I've always wondered that. Kelly on YouTube Live, #HeyJB, #HeyGarrett. What is going on with Jen Soto? Jen Soto is cooperating in the investigation. She has not been charged. She is she's a mother in mourning, losing her 13-year-old daughter. This is somebody who went in front of cameras, did numerous interviews, seeking help and finding her daughter, and we hope, of course, that there's nothing more there. The more this story evolves, you hope that there's only one monster in this story, and you hope that it's limited there. As pertaining to Jen Soto and what she is doing this morning, we have not heard on any reports on if she's going to be in court. She could be in the live stream chat right now. And we've seen that a lot with previous stories where people connected to the stories that we covered, they'll find their way into our comment section. Sometimes they just want to see what people are saying. And so not saying, we have no idea where Jen Soto is this morning. If we hear anything out of the Orlando market, we'll, of course, pass it along to you. Garrett, I'm going to check a couple things because I'm trying to find out. The time is now 9:08.
Right. This was supposed to begin at 9 o'clock, so it's about 8 minutes past.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find out, excuse me, where this courtroom feed is. Guys, sometimes, look, it can be as simple as, just a feed issue, or the court could be running behind or something like that. I'm trying to find any feed whatsoever. And I'm just not, I don't think the pool camera feed has been set up yet, which, you'd hope would be set up.
Just to reiterate for anybody who is, by the way, joining in, since we first started, we do have a story up on WFLAnow.com where you can go get all the information you need about the case, just diving into it. Talking about Stephan Sterns, who will be, hopefully, appearing here in court shortly. He was the live-in boyfriend of Madeline's mother and is being charged with 60 counts related to child sex crimes in relation to Madeline Soto with her disappearance and death. He has not been charged with murder or homicide yet, as we've talked about extensively here, but investigators say they did find plenty of evidence to say that Sterns sexually abused Madeline, dating back to when she was only 8 years old back in 2019. She was 13.
All right, I got an important update here.
All right, perfect.
It's not good news for our audience. So the online court portal for Osceola County was just updated moments ago, and it said that the hearing was held already. So it was done in the last 10 minutes. Now, this is not in the Tampa market. It's not our crew. We're only able to distribute a camera feed once the feed is provided. But it sounds like this was really quick, because not only is it over, but they even had time to go into the court system and,
and update it.
So this might have been extremely brief, but I was told yesterday that the pool camera feed would be available to all local media and then distributed, of course, to exterior markets, and it never showed up. Now, what we might have here is a playback situation, and I see now signs. See that on 15?
Yes, I do.
So that might be we might be getting a playback. It might have what sometimes will happen with this sort of scenario is with pretrial hearings. This isn't a situation like in a trial where it's going to go on all day. These pretrial hearings can sometimes be 90 seconds. I mean, in, out, exchange a few words, stand in front of the judge, on to the next person, because they have so many different, of course, cases to kind of cycle through. If it was that quick, it might have just kind of caught the crew by surprise, and there might be now a tape feed coming back, and it looks like they're setting up for a taped feed to be played back here. So I'm going to have to really keep an eye, because if it was that quick, I'm going to try to hit the button and bring you that taped feed as soon as it pops up. But back to more of the news that I think is going to create a reaction with our audience. The May 13th trial date was just canceled in the court schedule. So remember, we were talking about this pretrial hearing was likely going to set the stage for the weeks and months ahead. We were talking about how quick May 13 would have been.
Right.
Canceled, outright canceled. And a new trial date has been set for August 19th, 9 a.m. with a pretrial hearing on July 10th. So this just got punted to the summer.
It's a 3 months difference.
My first thought, my natural inclination is, obviously, because there is the grand expectation that more charges are going to be filed in this case, that this was rescheduled for this summer, simply because maybe perhaps the state attorney's office communicated to the judge that additional charges were coming and that they need additional time. But we don't know until we actually have the court camera feed itself.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that maybe this was a situation where, because we know Stearns was previously set for arraignment and he had waived that. So I thought maybe because of how quick this was, maybe this was just a simple case of everybody, kind of being ready to go for the May 13th. But apparently, no, it was prosecution instead. And they're, like you said, maybe they're saying we have more to bring, so we need to push this back.
So just got another update from our friends over at WESH, the NBC station in Orlando. And they say, they had a team there. He did not show up. Stephan Sterns did not appear. Now, he didn't outright waive his appearance, to my understanding, but he did not appear at this hearing. And the exact quote was that this wasn't much. So Stephan Sterns has not yet appeared in a court of law pertaining to these charges. He remains in lockup. He does not have the opportunity for bail. And so this all of a sudden, I was, excuse me, I was told that he would likely be appearing today, that waiving the actual court appearance was likely not within the realm of possibility, but that clearly, he didn't show up this morning. And so that's the latest that we have. It was a very brief, super quick hearing, but quick enough or not quick enough to actually have a conversation to reschedule this for August 19th. The actual pretrial hearing, basically what was supposed to happen today, has just been rescheduled for 1:30 p.m. on July 10th. And the actual jury trial now has been set for August 19th at 9 a.m. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to wonder. I mean, well, it's hard not to wonder, rather, exactly why this is the case. And again, the first thought that comes to our heads here is more charges perhaps are coming, and they wanted to just get it all done in one go. So yeah, that could be part of it. They could be expecting charges to be brought up here in the next 2 or 3 months before the pretrial hearing in July. I wonder if that's why he didn't show up. I wonder if if the defense knew that today was not going to amount to much, that they were going to ask for this to be pushed back.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all by this, by the way, because this was so fast, so quick that, I mean, I thought the chances of us actually going to trial in May had to have been 1%. I mean, that's just in covering enough of these cases and how complicated they are. And also too, when you have a high profile case like this, it doesn't even matter if it's a high profile, to tell you the truth. You have a murder of a child. And the last thing that any state attorney's office is going to want is any complications. And so the more time that they take to get it right and to, focus on the smallest of details in the investigation process, the more of a chance they have at reaching justice. So
something else of note here is that based on the FDLE, right, based off of the at least 15 weeks to get back an autopsy, to get back toxicology reports, all that stuff, that, if we assume it began when she was found, that should be about end of June is perhaps when that's coming back up, right in time for that July pretrial.
Right.
So, I mean, that seems like the most obvious.
You don't want to proceed with charges. You don't want to proceed with charges unless you have, an absolute plethora of evidence, that
a video of him doing.
Right. I mean, you don't want to proceed with, charges. Again, our audience was right on the money with our comments from earlier. He's in lockup. He's not going anywhere. He's being held without the opportunity to bail out. So investigators can make sure that they have all their T's crossed, I's dotted, wait for the toxicology to complete the autopsy report. Now, look, we don't have any inside information that suggests that they don't have the toxicology, they don't have the final autopsy. But as of right now, the last that we had heard from police was during the press conference with Chief Holland. And then I actually reached out to the Kissimmee Police Department it was like 2 weeks ago. I put it on Twitter. By the way. I still call it Twitter. X.
The platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yes. That's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. Stephan Sterns. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, okay. Where is that tweet? Here it is. It's been more than 6 weeks since Madeline Soto's body was found. No charges have been filed in her death. I reached out to police today for an update, and they said the Kissimmee Police Department is still diligently investigating. We don't have any updates to share at this time. This is still an open and ongoing investigation. We will provide updates as soon as they become available. We're going to record a quick video for WFLA.com going over the latest on this story. Stand by. A delay in the justice for Madeline Soto, as the trial for the suspect, Stephan Sterns, has been rescheduled for August. He does not appear in court this morning in Central Florida. We have the latest details right here on WFLA.com. JB and Garrett here with you as we break down again what we have just found out from the Osceola County Court online portal. Stephan Sterns, who faces 60 charges in connection with the Madeline Soto case, but not murder charges, was going to appear in court this morning, his first appearance in court on those charges in a pretrial hearing. We have been told, of course, by our sister station in Central Florida that he did not appear, that it was a very brief meeting, but the online court portal, Garrett, tells us that this is now something that's going to be occurring this summer. The exact dates are pretrial hearing on July 10th, and then the actual jury trial August 19th, 2024 at 9 o'clock a.m. in front of Judge Keith Karsten.
Yeah, that's a full 3 months after the original jury trial, which was set for May 13th. As we mentioned previously, Stearns is facing 60 charges. Those are related to child sex crimes involving Madeline Soto, including charges that are sexual battery of a child and possession of child sexual abuse material. Those types of charges are a capital felony, meaning that Stearns, if found guilty, could be facing life in prison or the death penalty.
Meanwhile, on social media, a lot of questions being asked as to when exactly charges will be filed pertaining to Madeline's death, pertaining to the homicide investigation that is in the hands of the Kissimmee Police Department. We reached out to the Kissimmee Police Department a couple weeks ago. They say that they are diligently investigating, as of course people await updates. If we have any more updates on this story, we'll let you know about it right here on WFLA.com. And with that, wrapping up the video for our website, we're just now going to make the rest of the stream here just about Q&A. Let's just try to take as many questions as possible. To submit a VIP comment, you go to www.heyjb.live, where we had our poll previously. The poll is now down. You can see there that those are the poll results. But if I move this now, I can bring up the opportunity for you to vote. Or to not vote, submit a VIP comment. It will look like this. You just put in your name, where you're watching from, and then, of course, your comment. You check off that box that basically says, yeah, I consent to my comment being on screen, and then it shows up right here on this screen to my left here in the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. If you don't want to go through all of that, it's more luck if I'm looking at this screen at the right time, but you can use hashtag HeyJB. It'll also be brighter on my screen as well. So let's get to the live comment section and see with what folks are saying. Hashtag HeyJB from Lorraine on YouTube Live. We need laws to change now. How can we get this done to protect the children from these horrific acts of violence against innocent children? So I don't think that there's any law in the land that will ever just eliminate evil from this planet. Evil will always persist. Evil will always be present. It's about preventing these heinous acts as much as possible. What kind of laws can be introduced? Is there a law that would have protected little Madeline Soto? That's, I think, part of a larger conversation, and perhaps one with lawmakers or with lawyers to be able to have a conversation with them and discuss the case more in depth and look at ways that future tragedies can be prevented. But Lorraine, evil will always, it's sad and unfortunate, but there will always be evil in this world. And you just hope that we can do as much as a society to prevent these types of cases from happening in the future.
I mean, remember last year, I believe it was May of last year, that Governor DeSantis signed a bill that made this exact type of crime that he's being charged with into a capital offense, made it punishable by death. So, I mean, this is actually a recent update to Florida legislator where, this is now a potential death penalty charge for him. And that was not the case maybe more than a year ago, from when we're talking about this now. If the governor signing this bill last year that made this a capital offense does not dissuade somebody, if it's not the death penalty, what else could possibly dissuade someone?
Right. And, of course, Florida has the death penalty, as many other states do. Not all states have the death penalty in this country. The death penalty, obviously, a very polarizing subject. Also want to point out, too, I had a conversation. We had a live stream just a couple months ago with Joe Petito, Gabby Petito's father, joining us here on stream and talking about a law that he was really heavily lobbying for. I mean, Joe and the family, they have really been pushing for laws in multiple states, not just Florida, not just New York. They've been trying to spark change through the Gabby Petito Foundation. And that law, that bill that he was advocating for on that stream did get passed, a Gabby Petito-inspired law that's focused on lethality assessments in Florida, which basically is a more extensive questionnaire that law enforcement agents, law enforcement officers, and deputies will be trained on how to. They'll be trained on how to assess domestic violence situations in the hope that that they can identify scenarios where someone might be in extreme danger and be able to take steps from that point forward to save lives and prevent a domestic violence visit to a home, a domestic violence call from becoming a domestic violence death. So yeah, I mean, laws are that's one of the best parts about living in this country. The laws are constantly evolving and changing. We're trying to do better, of course, always to try to protect people. But there will. It's sad to say, but evil will persist, and we will be talking about and we do with other stories pertaining to crimes against children. It's terrible. It's awful, but hopefully there's ways that we can learn, grow, and evolve to prevent this from happening in the future. Dreamcatcher, #HeyJB, #HeyGarrett. How does it work over in the United States? Does he have the choice to not turn up for the trial? And thoughts on if the trial will be streamed. Joining us from Liverpool in the UK. Hi there, Dreamcatcher. Yeah, he basically does have the choice to not turn up, especially in a pretrial hearing such as this. Now, it's basically up to his representation, his legal representation, his counsel, and in this case, it's the public defender, as to what the strategy is going to be and whether he's going to appear or not appear. And of course, that in and of itself sends a message. But yes, of course, by law, he does not have to appear this morning. The expectation was that he was going to for this one, but he still didn't. And thoughts on if the trial will be streamed. Florida is a state. Not all states are very open when it comes to courtroom access. Florida is a state that is very open with courtroom access. And so I can almost guarantee you that, yeah, I mean, look, we almost had the pretrial hearing. The feed was set up. It was ready to go, but he didn't appear. So no doubts that this will be streamed. And that's what people want. People want to be able to see, law and order play out. They want to be able to see our criminal justice system, at work. They want to be able to see the evidence. They want to understand these cases and follow the pursuit of justice.
Yeah, I fully expect this to be streamed. Now, whether it will be happening in August, we've already now had this delay once. I question when this will happen rather than if it will happen or if we're going to see the stream. I think that there's a chance that this is not going to happen in August either. I think it'll push back again, potentially. We talked about...
It's very possible.
A reason why this might have been pushed back is that toxicology report maybe holding up the autopsy. We talked about how the FDLE said that it's about 15 weeks, at least 15 weeks, which would put it end of June. If that's the case, going from the end of June when they get that report to them then being able to bring forth those additional charges, then the defense has to have time to actually see what those charges are based on.
Yep.
It's unlikely
and prepare a defense.
And prepare a defense. It's unlikely to me that they would then hit that July pretrial. And then if they don't hit that, obviously the August date would be in question. Now, maybe they're having time to prepare that defense in advance because they're expecting this to come. But who knows? We could be hearing about another situation where they push this trial and pretrial back even further.
We're talking about this with Kohberger right now. I mean, right. with Kohberger, I mean, it's just delay after delay after delay. They have a more complicated scenario in Moscow with this notion that they don't want to have one of the probably the most significant murder trial in that town's history at a time when kids are, just trying to get their education and they don't want to disrupt campus life over there. But it could be significant delays in the Kohberger case. I think that we have heard from the judge enough now to know that he doesn't want it to, he doesn't want to extend it that much further. Hilly Gonzalez's family doesn't want, obviously, to, have this shadow looming over their life for years and years. So, but we see this frequently cases getting pushed back, and it's because they're complicated. I mean, these court cases are so complicated, and there's a lot of moving parts. Jane says almost 9:30 at night in Western Australia. This is why. But we have world.hjb.live. It's because we have so many people joining us from around the world. Thank you for watching, Jane. Lots of us here are watching this case with interest. Justice for Maddie. Thanks, JB and crew, for all the updates. So, of course, Mom2H, you submitted a VIP comment, and I want to just point this out. I can't answer that question. It's improper for us to do so. I don't have an answer to that question, but I can't answer it. And so I see your VIP comment on heyjb.live, and due to the nature of that question, it would be highly unethical for me to answer. I do know why you are asking that question, but I can't answer it. Let's go to some other VIP comments and see what people are saying. Okay, yeah, Chantel. Hey, JB, what about Madeline's mother, Jennifer? Do you think that she knew what was going on? Madeline needs justice. Hopefully this monster gets that's the death penalty. DP is death penalty. And so, Jennifer Soto. Exactly, there's been a lot of the blame game going on social media. But I want to remind our audience, we did not know. We don't know what was going on inside that home. And we don't understand the dynamic, the household dynamic. And it's always really easy. And I understand the interviews. I understand the optics. I believe me, I get it. I've been covering the story enough now and been reading enough of your comments to understand the reasoning why Jennifer Soto gets a lot of attention in this case. She's the mother. She's living with her boyfriend and her daughter at that home in Central Florida. It's natural to inquire as to whether or not she was involved and how much that she knew. Parents can't envision a scenario where they don't know their child is being, abused. But there have been cases, in a lot of other cases, where abuse has gone on without parental knowledge of any kind. Now, look, I understand the dynamics here. I understand all the pieces on the table. We hope to find out more about this in the future. You would imagine that at trial, assuming that we have a not guilty plea from Stephan Sterns, you would assume that Jennifer Soto is going to take the stand. You're going to assume that she is the key piece of testimony in the case. I mean, really, a majority. Well,
she's really the only person that has intimate knowledge of those two's relationship
and understanding,
and their dynamic and how it happened. Exactly.
What she didn't know and how she fits into the puzzle it's a key part of this case. But she has, of course, ever since Maddie's body was found, she has been quiet. Now, Madeline Soto's father, who I believe is in Georgia, can you check on that? Madeline Soto's father, he did an interview recently. He did an interview, I think, with local media, and he's not in the picture. He obviously extremely disturbed by what has gone on. But yeah, I mean, look, it's only natural for people to ask, where's mom? Where's dad? What did mom know? What did dad know? Why was this allowed to happen? How was this allowed to happen? But we just, with Madeline Soto's mom, Jennifer Soto, remaining, quiet and likely, of course, grieving, mourning the loss of her daughter. And we haven't heard from her. And the only person that we have heard from is her father, whose name eludes me at the moment.
His name, I'm so sorry, I just had it up, is Tyler Wallace.
That's right. Yep.
And I'm still trying to find, I have seen reference to him living thousands of miles away. I'm still trying to find the exact.
I thought it was Georgia.
Trying to find the exact information for you here.
Yeah. WFTV, I'm going to source them. Oh, okay, so Tyler Wallace came into town. That's right. And reporter Shannon Butler with WFTV, Channel 9 in Orlando, sat down with him. And the couple kept in touch that he paid child support, gave a little bit of extra for flute lessons, again, according to WFTV. Saying that he wished he could have seen her more. Saying that that Tyler didn't know Sterns well. And he says, the quote is here, and go to supporting local journalists. Go to WFTV if you want to see that. I'll put this in the comment section here on YouTube Live. Because again, we supporting local journalists, supporting local journalism. But you can read the whole story for yourself by Shannon. But the quote is, "I don't know yet the whole story, and it's painful to be in that state of waiting to understand how I feel. But the truth is, I don't know how I feel yet. It's hard. It's flip-flopping and speculating, and that's difficult." So even Madeline Soto's father sounds as if he's in the dark and trying to get answers, and trying to understand how and why this occurred. He did an on-camera interview. You can find that in the article link that I just posted on YouTube Live. Let's go back to some of the comments. We'll go for another 10, 15 minutes, folks, before we wrap up our live stream. Again, if you're just joining us, no courtroom camera feed. Stephan Sterns did not appear in Osceola County Court, as he was somewhat expected to do this morning for a pretrial hearing. Now, it's only natural for me to wonder, did he not appear because this was rescheduled before he even got out of, had the opportunity to leave his cell this morning?
Maybe his team knew. Maybe the prosecution
maybe they communicated to him, like, say, hey, look, this has been, we're moving this back. It's being rescheduled. No point to have the hearing. And that could have all happened extremely quickly this morning. But it was updated in the online court portal. So that's where we are now. We're just answering some questions from folks about this story while we've got a audience here on YouTube Live. Yeah, and I can't, guys, I can only spotlight comments with a hashtag, so hashtag #HeyGarrett or hashtag #HeyJB, or a comment that is sent in to www.heyjb.live. It's the only way I can spotlight a comment, okay? So, but I do see some people commenting back and forth here on YouTube Live, saying, quit blaming Jennifer Soto. And it's because, look, let me tell you something. Our comment section is a lot of finger pointing right now, and has been with every stream we've done on this story, Garrett. People are wanting to, wanting there to be more answers in regards to the parenting side of the equation, and that's to be expected. However, again, people are speculating and they're curious and they are wondering about what was going on inside that house, but you just don't know. You just don't know. You don't know. That's why investigations are done. That's why they are extensive. That's why people are brought in for multiple rounds of interviews, and these interviews are done and cross-referenced to make sure that the truth is being, that through all of the smoke, that they are getting through to the actual truth. And so we don't know.
I mean, it should also be pointed out, it's very easy in hindsight to say, oh, this guy, if these charges if he ends up being found guilty for these things. In hindsight, it's easy to say, wow, this guy was a monster. But, for her mother, who was living with this guy, I mean, we don't know what their relationship was like. We don't know if he showed signs of this type of behavior. We don't know if he ever gave her a reason not to trust him around her daughter. Right? This abuse supposedly happened in 2019, and up until more recently, they were still living together, still dating. That's a 5-year relationship at least, and probably a little bit before that, obviously, or else he wouldn't necessarily have been living with them. It's easy in hindsight to point to somebody and say that behavior, you should have been able to catch it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that that's something you were going to catch in the moment. And it should be noted that her mother is cooperating. The authorities have said, that despite the fact that Sterns is not cooperating with this investigation, her mother is. Even though they are looking at everyone and they say that everyone close to her is a suspect, that would include her mother. So she's being looked at, but she's still cooperating with this investigation. We don't know what the dynamic in that household was going to be like. It's one of those situations where once investigators come out and say, hey, now we have evidence that says, maybe this was neglect, or that says maybe this was something more, or maybe they'll come back and say there's no evidence at all and that she was a victim of this just like Madeline was.
To the previous comment, very focused and honed in on Florida, but we cover cases across the country, and more on that. We're gonna in about 10 minutes we're gonna talk a little bit more about that coming up. Hey JB, from that Newfie girl, there needs to be some sort of law that the biological parents have to follow in order to bring their child around their new love interest. That this is never going to fly. It's never going to fly. A law where you start, if you're a single mom, single dad, you start dating somebody new, and I have to follow a law to just introduce my child to the person I've been on a few dates with. It's just
it's almost like putting the punishment before the crime.
Yeah,
like there's no
it's never gonna go.
These cases get a lot of attention, but there are also hundreds of examples of boyfriends or girlfriends in relationships with kids who are great with kids.
Right.
And you can't punish everybody just because of this.
Yeah. I understand wanting to protect children, but at some point there's a line with how far the law can go. And in this case, I'm being honest, Newfie girl, I just don't think that can ever be.
It's innocent until proven guilty for a reason.
That's right. Look at some other comments. Let's go to Dreamcatcher. As a woman, I haven't seen any VIP comments in a while. Oh, no, here's one. But we'll go to Dreamcatcher first. Hashtag KJB. As a woman who can't have children, cases like this make me so angry. Putting men and their needs before their child. You never know anyone fully, and he seemed to be alone with Maddie a lot. Trust is a very it's so unbelievably consequential, right? You can trust somebody and they can open up an entire world for you through a trusting relationship, or it can also be your downfall, where you trust somebody that ends up being really responsible for such pain and suffering in your life. Trust is huge. Really ask yourself too. I mean, who do you trust in your life? Trust is a very powerful thing, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. And trust with children, as a new parent, this is something that I am exploring now, really for the first time. Understanding, who you trust to be around your child, let alone alone with your child. I mean, that's, again, it's a massive question that you have to ask yourself when it comes to being a parent. So Mama Meg, if a VIP comment on Hey JB Live, if these things were happening to Madeline, I can't imagine what types of things were happening to her mom. This is the very open sort of thinking that we talk about so often on stream, that it is so often it is the expectation that we see in our comment section, people just immediately assigning blame to one person. And look, sometimes you might be right. Sometimes the blame game does line up, and the person that is subject of all that speculation online is actually involved and responsible. But when you have so little to go off of, you just don't know, and that's why we always say, like, what is in the realm of possible? What is not within the realm of possible? And so always try to challenge the norm of what people are saying online. Ask so why do you have that opinion? Where are you getting your information from? How are you basing your opinion? And what are you using to formulate your opinion? These are important things that I encourage people to do on social media, to just challenge the narrative. I'm not saying anyone is guilty. I'm not saying anyone is innocent. I'm saying just ask the right questions and ask where people are getting their information to formulate their opinion. All right. VIP comments, AJB comments. We're going to do this for another about 5 or so minutes. Kind of a last call, if you will. Right. Stephanie saying maybe the mother was also being abused herself, afraid to say anything out of fear of her safety. It's unfortunate, but we hear about these stories too often. Where there isn't just one victim in a household. Sometimes it can be multiple. Yeah, JM talking about background checks. Yeah, I mean, the idea of a background check is so fascinating now. We do background checks at WFLA all the time, where we're checking in on a particular person connected to a story that we are covering. But really, the idea, background checks, social media has changed the concept of a background check. Back in the 90s, doing a background check on somebody was a very extensive and detailed, and it still is. No, don't get me wrong, it still is. But now, so much of what you can find out about a person is so evident on social media. Now, background check can go a little bit more in depth as to what isn't present on social media. But I think Stephan Sterns, his socials are still up, as you would expect. He's still on Facebook. He still has a Twitter account. I saw it last night. Social media can tell you a lot and also absolutely nothing all at the same time.
Right. I mean, there are plenty of people who don't even use it that much. Mm-hmm. They might have accounts that they just use to, keep up with the news. For example, I have a X account, right? I don't post there that much, but I use it to keep up with the news. I follow a lot of news accounts. A lot of people use social media that way. It doesn't mean that what's on social media is indicative of who you are necessarily, because maybe you're just not using it for the social aspects.
Yeah, social media doesn't tell you the whole story of a human.
And another thing about it is oftentimes if you are a criminal or if you are someone who is going out and doing these things that are ostensibly evil or bad, you're probably not putting it on your Facebook page. You're probably not going to post a Facebook status that says, I just went and committed this crime, right? Unless you're wanting to get caught. Most people who commit crimes are not trying to advertise it.
No, they are trying to put up the front that they are, or they're trying to put up the front that they're a good person, or they're just not putting up a front much at all. They're just not going to see people advertise their crimes, as Garrett's pointing out. I'm looking up here because this is a great question. I saw it. I think it was a VIP comment. Hold on. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. It's on screen. Steve, what other charges are they? This is a great section to wrap our conversation. I'm going to share some more details here in a moment, but let's just wrap with Stephan Sterns for a second there on your screen. What other charges are they expecting to charge him with? What could they? I mean, so look, let's just get the obvious out of the way. Stephan Sterns is the prime suspect in Madeline Soto's death. The homicide investigation that focuses on Stephan Sterns is expected to produce a murder charge. The degree and the evidence, all of that, of course, are dependent on the current investigation. But another obvious charge, I'm trying to look up the exact terminology with the charge, but disposal of human remains. That is in and of itself a separate charge, right? So not only are we talking about the act of murder, but then the act of trying to conceal the remains. The sheriff telling local media and telling all of us that they have video where Maddie was no longer alive, and basically in the process of being transported away from the home where she would eventually get dumped. As just gross as that is, just being dumped in a rural area on the other side of town in Central Florida. I mean,
also tampering with evidence.
Tampering with evidence.
Certainly
that's
possible.
That's another one. Yep, that's
He
pretty.
was supposedly caught on camera dumping things into a dumpster where later, authorities say they found a backpack and a laptop that belonged to Madeline. That would be disposal of evidence.
Not only that, how about erasing the contents of your phone?
Obstruction of justice, yeah.
Whoops isn't going to fly. I'm just going to tell you. Just the idea like, oh, I'm about to be the focus of a criminal investigation, and on that same day, I wiped all the contents of my phone. That's by coincidence. Just, oh yeah, I was clearing out my phone. It was getting full. I was running out of storage. Investigators are not going to buy that for 1 second.
I looked up those charges for you, by the way.
Yeah.
Abuse of a dead body.
Yep.
Could be what we're looking for here. Unmarked human burials is covered in here as well. Injuring or removing. No, it's not quite the same. But yeah, abuse of a human body seems to be what would most likely be the charge.
Again, this is all based on allegations, all based on the information that we have been provided. This is the part on the stream where I tell you, and this is extremely important, innocent until proven guilty. And while we have conversations on stream here and we provide tremendous amounts of context with these stories, and also too, we will, try to answer these questions to help you understand where a story might be heading next. As a reminder, Stephan Sterns is innocent until proven guilty. And so we, of course, will follow the process here in the hopes that there is this sense of justice for Madeline Soto's family, friends, and those closest to her. But innocent until proven guilty, and we will be following this case closely. It's right in our backyard here in Florida. And that brings me to the commenter from earlier who says, what cases do you cover? Is it just Florida, or is it other cases? Obviously, we've done a lot of cases on stream, including Brian Koberger and the Idaho 4 and others. We have covered, of course, the shocking story of Carly Russell up on the Panhandle. Cassie Carly, a lot of stories that are local, regional, and national too. And so we will be covering stories far and wide here on stream in the future. Provided, thumbs up in the comment section. Throw a thumbs up emoji if you would like to see more live streaming beyond just Florida cases. Because even though we are a local news station covering Florida, I've been given the green light to basically be able to cover stories anywhere pertaining to the types of stories that we cover. We cover breaking news, viral stories. I, of course, really try to use social media for missing persons cases if we can help spread missing persons cases and help out authorities. True crime, of course, is something that we have found ourselves discussing quite a bit as well. Yes, I've been basically given the green light to do stories anywhere. One of our most watched stories last year was Ocean Gate, the submersible that went down to the Titanic and never came back. There's no local news station in the world that can cover that story. That's out in the middle of the Atlantic. It's not in anyone's backyard. So that was an interesting story for us to cover. But more stories like that will be on our live stream. And that brings me to the final point on this particular stream. Exciting things are in the works. We've got, and I put this on my Instagram recently, and it's hard for me not to just like scream from a rooftop what we've been working on here in the Stream Center. Garrett knows what we've been working on, and it's extremely exciting. Interactive journalism is my passion. It's my life's work. The idea that news does not have to be a one-way street, that news can include you. That is exactly why at any point on a live stream, I can bring up, Dreamcatcher's comment with #HeyJB, #HeyGarrett. I can bring up Michelle, one of our YouTube moderators, talking about how Ocean Gate, yes, it was a wild story. I can bring up these comments. I believe my life's work is that I believe that news can and should be a two-way conversation, that a news organization should never ignore their audience, especially when you have an audience that can offer so much in the form of opinion and valuable feedback and just providing to really the conversation that surrounds some of the biggest stories that we cover. So exciting things are in the works. And so people ask me on social media, they asked me on Instagram, they said, okay, when can we expect some of these exciting updates? And the answer to that, I am hoping, I'm hoping next month. I'm hoping that, I think May, Garrett, is going to be a really exciting month here in the Stream Center. I think hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit of what we've been working on. Garrett probably is sick of me talking about it so much because it's all I work on. And but the idea is that interactivity and interactive content and interactive journalism, we are going to take it. My goal is to take it where no one has taken it before. And all because I think that I don't care if you are watching from Florida. I don't care if you're watching from Kentucky, from Canada. I don't care if you're watching from a beach in Mexico. I think Michelle said that she was getting an oil change this morning while she was watching us.
Multitasking, we love it.
Multitasking. I don't care if you're watching from the UK, Australia, the North or South Pole. It doesn't matter. That would be pretty astonishing if you were joining us from the North or South Pole. Your voice matters. It should matter. And even when we get an international viewer saying, hey, how does this work in the United States? That's really fascinating to me, because we're able to have conversations and maybe we, question the status quo, and we talk about why things are the way that they are and why they exist. Why the law might be different in one country versus our own. I feel like a fish out of water whenever we're talking about the Royals in the UK. When it comes to the Royals, our UK audience knows this. I struggle. I bring on anybody in our newsroom that can help me talk about what goes on with the line of succession and William and Harry and Kate and Meghan and I can't follow it.
I'm just surprised you got 4 names.
It's an achievement. It's an achievement. So the international conversation to me is utterly fascinating. I appreciate, in fact, we'll end out our stream here. Let us know where you're watching from. And please be honest, it doesn't have to be international. It could be, right here, domestic, U.S., Canada. I just want to see where people are watching from at the moment. Marietta says that she's watching from South Africa. How cool is that? Can you give me a time, what time it is right now in South Africa?
South Africa, let's find out.
Yeah, let's. I'm curious. Lady J says Sebastian Rogers deserves our attention. I would love to delve more into that story. That is a story that we might be delving more into soon. I am hoping that we can make that happen. Hey, Popcorn Planet. I think that's Andy joining us. I got you on the Royals. Good. You can handle the Royal content, Andy. Or, that might be Steph. I don't know if that's Steph or Andy. Hello to Steph and Andy over at Popcorn Planet. Look, the Royals, guys, I would flunk that test. I always try to do my very best, but I rely on the strength of our guests when I do that type of work.
It is 3:58.
3:58. All right, so see, that's a good time. We're
about done with your day, most likely.
Yeah,
pretty nice.
Getting closer to dinner. All right, people that are joining us. Gemini's joining us from Florida. Dreamcatcher again from Liverpool. Ashley from Illinois. Megan from the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas. Megan is in Missouri. Shopaholic is in Canada. Aleppo Gambit, Ontario, Canada. Wow, that's a name I'm going to try not to say, but joining us from Connecticut. Nikki Dawn joining us from North Carolina. Linda Ann from Massachusetts. See, Patricia, that's where I want to be right now. Cancun, Mexico. How about that? Lorraine's joining us from Boca. Mina is joining us from Switzerland. It's just great to see so many people that are joining us here on stream. So, yes, we'll end out on this. If all goes according to plan, we have to react to a lot of story coverage and breaking news that we cover here in the Stream Center. But provided that if the schedule lines up correctly, May will be a wildly exciting month. And I promise you that that the work that this journey that we have embarked on, you're going to see something you've never seen before. And we're really challenging the status quo in how the news can get produced and how the news gets done. And we're doing some really exciting things, and it is an international effort. I think that's the thing that's really cool about this, is that I'm working with a lot of different people to bring this vision to life. So that's enough of a tease. Anything else you want to share, Garrett, here on stream?
No, just thank you for having me on, JB. We, as a reminder, we do have a lot of information about the Madeline Soto case, as well as Stephan Sterns over at the website WFLA.com. We got a story there, which I actually need to start working on updating now that we know he has had these dates pushed back.
Yeah, the court appearance didn't happen. The court feed never came through because this was such a brief and inconsequential thing that occurred this morning in Central Florida. But again, the major headline is that the trial has been rescheduled for August after a no-show from the suspect, that being Stephan Sterns. Garrett will keep our audience posted on this story. Any updates that we hear out of Central Florida, we'll share on WFLA.com. That's our home base for all of our article content, all of our live streams, everything that you need to know. And to everybody that went over to www.heyjb.live, you're participating in interactive journalism. We really appreciate that. We're doing some really cool things over here in the Stream Center. And anyone that goes over to that website, you get a huge round of applause from me, because we're trying to do some really cool stuff over there. So thank you. For Garrett Phillips, I'm JB Biunno. Thanks so much for joining us here in the Stream Center. More episodes, of course, ahead here from the Stream Center as we continue, of course, to cover the biggest stories that matter most to our audience. And as a reminder, you can follow me on social media. Very latest updates we'll post on the WFLA JB account across social. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here on Hey JB Live.